gentlemen, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome to today's Live at 5. And of course, I am looking for my my guest today, and the screen looks black. So I'm just going to ask her if she can hear me, just to sort of, if she can sort of log out and log back in again. Big Joe Shep here, Chief Bloke and founder of the ThreeBOD Rugby Group. I hope you are all good and welcome to the show. Who've we got on? Ben is on. Oh, looking forward to this. Yeah, absolutely. Well, today, as ever, we are brought to you by SHEPs Blend, the only coffee in the world that you would want to wake up to. And what is even better now is you can go to CoffeeDog.ie and there's a page for SHEPs Blend coffee. So you can just click on that link and you get that in beans and in ground. SHEPs coffee, the only coffee that you want to wake up with. So let's get rid of that. Thanks very much to Johnny and the team for doing that. Let's bring my guest straight in. We know how this works. Zakaia Cvitanovitch, as you were. Sorry, darling, it's so long. Just call you Z, Lady Z. That's all. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad, thanks. Not too bad at all.
Good. Well, today's Live at 5, you know how this works, ladies and gents. It's a quick sort of 15 minutes round robin. Today, we are looking at episode 7, Return to Rugby, the Women's Rugby World Cup, sevens, etc., etc. Why are we looking at that, Z? Well, it came to our attention, didn't it, that sadly, and I did support World Rugby at the time, that the Women's Rugby World Cup, or just called Rugby World Cup 2021, was cancelled this September in New Zealand, a country in which I have to say is a standout for dealing with and the managing of COVID and the lockdown since it has started. Fair play to Jacinta Ardern for everything she's done there. Now, here's the thing. Since then, we have been notified that there are a number of things going on. HSBC World Rugby 7 Series in a number of countries. So we've got the Dubai Sevens, we've got Cape Town with what's happening in South Africa. You've got the Hong Kong Sevens, Cathay Pacific Hong Kong Sevens. You've got Singapore, London, Canada, and Paris. Some of those are confirmed, some of them still to be confirmed as well. Now, we're not having a go at anybody. This, as ever, the ThreeBOD Rugby Group, it is there to just pose the question. Z, why, on a return to rugby protocol, are we cancelling the Rugby World Cup where in one country you've got so many teams and yet we're all, and in fact, that going on at the moment, isn't there? There's a Dubai Invitational series going on. What's going on and why?
Well, you know what? That's a bloody good question and one I've been asking for ages, because I first thought, excuse my language, but it was a load of bollocks. Okay, so what we've got is 12 teams for the Rugby World Cup 2021 going to one country, okay? And that's deemed unsafe, but let me see, 16 teams, 8 men's, 8 women's, traveling around 5 countries or 4 countries. That's safer? I mean, that makes no sense to me. But first of all, I mean, there's a couple of things involved with this. When this was first hitting the news, you know, that they were that their recommendation was to postpone it till next year. And first of all, I must say, as a female, I was just gobsmacked with the amount of people that were like, why isn't it called the Women's Rugby World Cup? It's so confusing. And it's like, really? Is it really confusing that there's a World Cup every 2 years? You can't keep up with that. Math's not a forte. So that was one thing. I mean, you know, if you're going to use Women's Rugby World Cup, then use Men's Rugby World Cup. It's either all or nothing, I'm afraid. So that's my first, you know, the first thing that irked me. The second thing was this what I saw as an inconsistency. So because they were already talking about the World Rugby Sevens series at that stage, they didn't have the beautiful graphic out at you know, then as they do now. And this, what we've got in Dubai at the moment, I mean, that was news to me, because that's not the Dubai Sevens. The Dubai Sevens are on our national day, which is in December. So this is something over and above. So yeah, so it's what I see as a huge inconsistency between the Sevens and the, you know, the British and Irish Lions tour going ahead to South Africa. I do not see why they had to cancel the Rugby World Cup 2021. Oh, sorry, cancel, postpone.
That's right. It's been put back a year, hasn't it? Really, to 2022. And of course, I think the thing which is actually, I have to say that I am in that camp of why we had to change names. I understand that I'm a big fan of promoting women's rugby and women in rugby. There's not enough of promoting women in rugby, and it's still something I'm banging on about. But the whole thing is, I don't see anything wrong with it saying, the Women's Rugby World Cup, the Men's Rugby World Cup. There should be a parity. But if you're introducing youngsters, that there's they're going to think that youngsters are new people to support. They're going to think that there's a Rugby World Cup every 2 years, and there isn't. There is, but there isn't. I just think sometimes we've lost a bit of sense of perspective of, do you know what? Say women, promote the women's game in its own right. I think is far more healthier than trying to keep certain people happier. But this whole thing about the postponing of it comes, we did one of our, in fact, it was our first or our second one of these Live at Fives where we discussed the women, the WXV competition, phenomenal competition, which is almost like a global calendar, a league that builds up to the Rugby World Cup. I think it's just bloody groundbreaking. Fair play to World Rugby to Sir Bill and everybody who's done that. I think it is absolutely groundbreaking. And then 2 weeks later, after lauding them, we get this. Is it though, Z? Is it though the fact of, as we've covered on our multi-shows in the past, the private companies that run these competitions that World Rugby has no control over? It just, the optics isn't good though, is it, really? Especially now.
No. Well, World Rugby, I mean, it's their committee that runs the World Cups.
I get that. What I mean is the other ones. There isn't a parity on this. That's why I called it today Return to Rugby. It was almost, the title was going to be almost creating a level playing field, excuse the pun. But there's the problem, is that it's almost like World Rugby don't seem to have control over some of the aspects. I mean, who's running your invitational one that's happening right now, this week? It started last weekend in Dubai. There's an invitational sevens, as you said, not the not the Dubai sevens, but just an invitational ones. And you've got these people coming from across the world. I don't know what the medical situation is in Dubai at the moment. You're best placed to tell us that. But the optics of it isn't good for that going ahead when we cancel something as important. Now, maybe it's easier for those invitational tournaments still to go ahead and have everybody sort of come in than it was for such a big lead up period and what's required for the Women's Rugby World Cup or Rugby World Cup 2021. It just doesn't look good, does it? I mean, what message are we sending out on this return to play protocols where we haven't got through COVID? There's going to be a fourth wave. You look at South Africa at the moment and how difficult it is for them and for others, and then we see this. And again, HSBC, great organisation. The 7 Series is a phenomenal experience for people to go. But, I don't know.
I'm just looking at all the bullet points, the reasons why they postponed the Rugby World Cup 2021. And the first one was the uncertainty and risk surrounding safe and reliable travel. Now, there's no guarantee. Remember, this is a year on from when it first started. There's no guarantee that 2022 is going to be that much better. Let's face it, So, I mean, the thing is, if they don't hold it next year, if something happens and they can't hold it next year, well, that's it, isn't it? That's it for the women.
It is because
they hold it in the same year as the men's. They just can't do that.
And the difficulty comes is that the new WXV tournament starts in 2023, and that is the build-up. That's the qualification period, isn't it, for 2025, which is the next Rugby World Cup 2025, the Women's Rugby World Cup. So
the second bullet point was about the 14-day managed isolation in New Zealand. Now, again, as far as I'm concerned, that's a load of crap. They didn't do their work. Because why would they change the rules for the Rugby Championship last year and then not change the rules for this? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
For the Rugby Championship, when we were supposed to have had it,
I'm just looking at some of the comments coming in. People saying hello, welcome to today's live at 5. Really looking forward to Rugby World Cup 21 and the Six Nations 21 also. Yeah, but that's the problem, Dan. It's slipping back a year already. We're looking forward to it as well. And the question that we're asking today really is Gregor Galway. Gregor, great man. Great news about the Women's World Cup and 7. It is that they're going ahead, but we don't know why. We don't know why some of these invitational tournaments have been given the go ahead. It's just the optics, I think, just
the whole thing about that 14-day managed isolation. I really do believe the government would have changed that. Done exactly what they did for the comp last year, perhaps 3 or 4 days in managed isolation and then practicing in your bubbles. They would have done that. Let me see. Now, one I do agree with is the inadequate preparation time, or an uneven amount of prep for all teams. However, as I've said, that's not a guarantee for next year either. And let's face it, is it not the same for the men's? I mean, yes, tier 1 nations get a good build-up, don't they, to these competitions? Anybody outside those nations, they don't get the same build-up anyway. So, I mean, until that other competition that they're talking about kicks in, that's going to be an issue next year as well. Let me see. Inability to stage to guarantee full local international fan attendance. Really? Because I'm seeing people at Super Rugby matches. Okay, but that's because we're New Zealanders and we just don't do it. However, we're allowed to go to these things. And yeah, okay, Auckland's had a couple of hiccups as far as lockdown goes. There's still a lot of country in New Zealand outside the Auckland area. So again, not an issue.
What would you like to have seen World Rugby do in response to some of these things? I mean, the HSBC thing only just broke. The fact that overlaps with this invitational tournament that's going on at the moment, we see so many positives in a lot of the unions. We see over here in Ireland with the return to play protocols, Wales done the same, and New Zealand and everything did it, and Oz did it, and it's great. And we talked previously, haven't we, about that the local then global approach, and that you were doing it locally with clubs, and then we were doing it into regions, and even Super Rugby Aotearoa, Super Rugby Australia was separated off as well, and everybody was like, it's great, people are taking a staged approach to what's going on. And then we get this, and it's almost like we've started to come out of the lockdown and COVID just a little bit, and yet people are just like, well, we'll just go hell for leather now, and it's just, I just fear that it's just going to open itself back up. Dermot O'Rourke is saying how lucky New Zealand are to have supporters to attend matches. Seems a long way away here in Ireland. Somebody's had somebody from the group team saying, yeah, very spoiled. Wim is in Wim, man, how are you? I promise I will catch up with you soon, buddy. Holding breath here in South Africa, reference the Lions tour tickets, booked accommodation, travel, etc. I just feel sometimes that you can see it with business and how busy people are getting. We're coming out of the lockdown a bit, and almost people are like rushing to cram everything back in again. And I'm not necessarily convinced that that's a good thing. What one thing would you want everybody, World Rugby and all of the fans and everybody who wants everything to return so quickly, what would the one thing that Z would say that you'd love to see over the next sort of 12 months or so to be able to create a level playing field for people in this?
Well, I think that one of the things people have to do is get vaccinated. They've got to get those 2 vaccinations. And I mean, I'm living proof that doesn't mean you're not going to catch it. However, because unfortunately I did after, a month after my second vaccination. But the point is, I only had very mild symptoms. So I thank the stars for that, because it could have been so much worse. However, at least I think the magic number is 80%. When you've got 80% of your population vaccinated, that's when the herd immunity kicks in. So that's one of the things that we've got to do. But what I worry about is just because you're vaccinated doesn't mean, you can just go living like you were pre-COVID.
Right.
You've still got to wear masks. You've still got to do all of those things that we're being told to do. And again, it's like, we're all used to wearing seatbelts. Do you remember when seatbelts first came in as being compulsory? Everybody's like, why? But, used to it, don't you? It's one of those things. Now, I've been wearing a mask for work for, over a year now, and you get used to it, and it's really no big issue. So it's making sure that you're keeping yourself, keeping to those precautions, not just to keep yourself safe, but to keep those around you safe as well. But it was funny when you said about what's one thing that I would have, asked of World Rugby. Well, I would have not to vote Bill Beaumont back in.
Well,
right back there. However, that might be a North versus South thing.
Yeah, we are. Yeah. I remember when we had this discussion last time. I'm a big Sir Bill fan personally, but look, the voting system is the voting system. But this is more about how we. Your points are valid about people coming back in and people being realistic. Gerald Williamson, who runs the fantastic AIL, that's the All Ireland League Rugby and Club Rugby Forum, former past president at Navan. Let's be realistic. You can plan when events can take place, but when you have a COVID-19 pandemic, which has not gone away, nobody knows what tomorrow will bring you. I think if you very quickly looked at that, you would probably be lucky. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 out of the 7 rounds there. If you got 4 of those rounds out, I think you're going to be lucky. To be honest,
but look where they are. They're not in safe spots.
No, I know.
Like, where's the worst? Let's have it
there. I suppose that the ones that are still got to be confirmed, what they're doing is they're trying to plan ahead because it is so big. I just wish that they could have been able to turn the Women's Rugby World Cup 21 in this year. Well, there we go. Anyway, to finish off, Demo says that I guess the fact that Tier 1 teams are professional and they can afford to put players in bubbles to prevent the spread of the virus. That's why we see Tier 1 teams being able to play so-called lower tiers and are not able to guarantee that bubble. It's a very fair point, and that's why I'm not guaranteed to play. And Nigel, the Night King of the White Walkers, will then also be a few years before sports is played in full, sadly, but we'll get there. We will indeed, my friend. Z, just let us know what you're doing at the current time in the Middle East. How's life for you just before we finish off?
Well, it's 8:20, and to be honest, I got a real shock about 25 minutes ago because I've been working on my research all day. An academic paper I'm doing about New Zealand or support of New Zealand rugby in South Africa. So there's been quite a bit written on it from a South African perspective, but not from a New Zealand perspective. So I'm hoping to take this academic paper to a conference in South Africa later this year. So that's what I've been working on. I was working away, and I just happened to look up and it was like, Joe will kill me if I'm late.
No problem at all. Listen, stay safe. We know that you raised a huge point there about the fact that there is no guarantee of anything, even with the vaccines. You a month later having gotten COVID, but fortunately, you came through that. And Demo saying great show as ever. Thanks, Guy, and thanks for everybody who's taken the time to sort of tune in. We've had a lot of support for these new live at fives a couple of times a week when there's something breaking or when we got a gap in between the shows. We've got a full week this week. Tomorrow we got a break because I'm going to help our stuff.
I was surprised you didn't do one just on the Crusaders losing.
Well, I had loads of messages saying, these opportunities. I had one message saying the opportunities aren't going to come around that often. Are you going to take advantage of it? No, I don't want to lose all my friends from there. But yeah, well, some great. Isn't it great for rugby that the way some of the shots have been of late? I think it is good. I think it's good, and I think it's. If you look very briefly at the European competitions, why there are in the Champions Cup, why there are 5 French teams, 2 English and an Irish team in the quarterfinals this coming weekend is because the way France did it, and they were so advanced, and they're very much back into the way, and they control things an awful lot better. And I think that is something that we should be taking away from the models from New Zealand in the way that you controlled and managed the lockdown in the main, the odd little blip here or there, but overall, probably the best country in the world by far to have been able to do that. And France integrated rugby back in has certainly proved for them that they have done very, very well in getting the top 14 back up and running.
Well, I was going to say, I mean, to be fair, as an island nation, it was easy to lock down, but you guys are island nations too, aren't you?
This is very, very true. Nice really should also be one on Leinster and Ulster. Great to see you too, mate. And to finish us off, keep preaching the gospel of rugby. We are. So tomorrow, unless something happens tomorrow morning, and don't forget, if anything happens, we've told everybody, we get a bit inundated, we've told everybody, send us a quick message. If something is breaking around the globe on rugby and you want us to give a quick live in 5, takes us about an hour to put it together, it's not a problem. Send us a message and we will get that out. If you want to come on and have a chat about something that irks you, then tell us and we'll put that together for you and you can come on and do it. So tomorrow there's no live at 5. Wednesday at 7 p.m, that's 2 p.m. Eastern time in the States, we are producing the show once again, the monthly show, the Let's Ride series for the New England Free Jacks, our supported team in the MLR this year. That's obviously hosted by former USA Eagle and World Rugby commentator Darren Stanford. That's 7 p.m. UK and Ireland, 2 p.m. Eastern time, and equivalent time zones around the globe, and on catch up as ever. And then that's on Wednesday. On Thursday, there is another live at 5. Twice in 2 days, we've got Darren Stanford on. I'll be chatting with Darren for about 15 minutes, looking at the first 3 rounds of MLR rugby, Major League Rugby in the States, and his view on not just the Free Jacks, but everything and how it's expanded out there and why the time is probably right now. And then on Saturday, we've got 2 Gogglebods, 2 match watch, 2 watch along shows. On Saturday, we have got Exeter versus Leinster in the Champions Cup, and that kicks off at about 5:10 at UK and Ireland time for that one. And we'll have some guests on there. And then at 8 p.m, in fact, at 7:40, that we go live for the second one, which is Northampton Saints versus Ulster in the Challenge Cup. Loads happening. Like and follow and subscribe to our YouTube channel, which is now we're going live on there today as well. And as of next week, these live at 5s will only be on the YouTube channel and they'll be shared out from there. So, Z, thank you very much. Stay safe, and we look forward to hearing more about the report that you are doing on that. Tonight's live at 5, looking at the return to rugby and why some competitions are going ahead while some others are being cancelled, and is it fair and everything like that. There's nothing fair in the world. We're all just trying to manage, but we raise the question anyway. It is, as ever, brought to you by our friends at SHEPs Blend, and you can now go to CoffeeDog.ie, and SHEPs Blend is the only blend of coffee that has its own page now on CoffeeDog.ie, and you can click straight on there for your beans or for your ground coffee. I've been chatting with the lovely Zakaia, as ever. Take care, Professor.
Thank you very much.
Professor. Take care. Thanks for your time. I'm Big Joe Shep, Chief Bloke at ThreeBOD Rugby Group, and brought to you by SHEPs Blend. Until Wednesday, we'll see you soon. Take care. God bless. Bye-bye.
Bye.